Well, today's the day. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming back and on my YouTube channel. Today is the day. Today, we inaugurate Donald Trump as our, I think, 47th president. I'm not sure what number, but today is the day. Now, you got to ask yourself, how did it happen? How did it happen that Donald Trump was elected president? Before we go any further, please, if this is your first time in my channel, please go to my video where it says a prerequisite for free and fair elections or a decent society. I don't remember the last part, but just look for the word prerequisite. And in that video, it pretty much outlines what this is all about, which is a strategy to get our country back from the oligarchs that took it from us. Okay, I used to tell people you have to know 4 things in order to get our country back. Instead of doing that, I just compiled a set of videos that pretty much explains those 4 things. That way you get a really good understanding what this is all about. And so this channel doesn't talk about the problems we're having, but rather it talks about a solution, a real true blue, no kidding solution to getting our country back and getting back to decency. So today we elect Donald Trump, or he's inaugurated as our president. And I argue, well, how did it happen that we got such a person as a president? You know what amazed me about this whole thing is how many people showed up to his rallies. And, you know, people would argue, I'm one of those that would say that Donald Trump is a fascist demagogue. He used the prejudices of people to get elected. And the people that listened to him and voted for him got a message. We're told that the reason why we're in bad shape as a country is because the Mexicans are taking our jobs, or the other, in other words. That's a mark of a true fascist. Whenever the population is struggling, they'll find a way to blame the other and focus on that and just, you know, push the buttons of those people who are disenfranchised of the system and not happy and suffering because the economic situation isn't the way it should be. In other words, people are not prospering. Another reason why Donald Trump got elected was because the left, the progressive left, people like me who believe that there's a better way to run a society through fiscal policy instead of monetary policy. And you know what those words mean if you watch my video on modern monetary theory. We had no place to go. Years ago, they had, through our elections, figured out a way to make it to where the people like me had nowhere to go, nowhere to vote, no person to really vote for. And when we did have that opportunity with Bernie Sanders, you know, winning the first 4 or 5 primaries, they found a way to make sure that he was not our president. Because those powers that be, those oligarchs that run our country, saw in him a resurgence of decency and an affront to their ideas of how to run a society, which is neoliberalism, through neoliberal ideology, which says that the free market, supposedly, which we know it's not free, should have a right to their profits. So that's how we got here. Now, my channel is all about fighting back. And when I ask you to like, share, and subscribe, I'm asking you to do that in such a way that it's very, very different from a lot of other YouTube videos that you watch. Because when you like, share, and subscribe my channel, my videos, you're saying, I agree with you, I'm ready to fight back, and I'm going to share your idea, and I'm going to fight back. But fight back with true, blue, no kidding, real live power. I mean, real power. The kind of power that makes the oligarchs shake in their boots and fear the people. Truly fear the people. But in order to do that, you have to be prepared to sacrifice. But then again, I say that it'll never happen. The strategy will never, you'll never go on a 60-day sabbatical, because the oligarchs, realize the implications of a whole nation sitting at home for 60 days contemplating on what they might do next. So I argue that Trump is our president now. We, the people, can take advantage of that. Everybody wins. Those people who feel like the Mexicans took over the country, the immigration's a big problem, and all the other things that Trump spews out, they win, because they, at the end of the day, if we do this right, we point to Trump and say, I told you so. I told you that he was the right president and that he can get our country back. And in a big way, they're right. And the reason why they're right is because it is true that Donald Trump is not part of the establishment. It's not part of what you might call the finance capitalism. As far as my researchers can tell, David Graeber said it once, the late David Graeber. I think he passed away, and I got to find out. He was an anthropologist that was really up there with Noam Chomsky as far as his credentials, credibility. He said that Donald Trump was what's called an industrial capitalist. He believed in he called it a corporate capitalist. That's what he called him, a corporate capitalist, and not a finance capitalist. Now, there's a big difference here. You have to understand, everybody, that our country has changed over the last 40 years to finance capitalism, which says money makes money. They're not interested in industry anymore. And that's really interesting, because I call this a neoliberal era, but I was watching a video from a guy standing, who's a professor somewhere in England, who's talking about how it's not necessarily neoliberalism anymore. It's what he called traps or trips, and there's an acronym, but it's basically went from neoliberalism to rentier capitalism. The fire sectors of our economy, finance, insurance, and real estate, have created a situation where they're getting rent, seeking or extracting rent from the people. They're raising the prices on the fire sectors of our economy, finance, insurance, and real estate. And that's really interesting. I got to do a little bit more research on that, studying on that. But getting back to Trump, when they voted, people voted for Trump. They said he was a guy. And if we have the courage to do and follow through on a strategy, then we, the left, not the right, but the left, can get what they want as well, which is to put him in a position to say, to make a decision whether he's going to fight for the corporate neoliberal or he's going to fight for the people. Now, Glenn Greenwald said it very well when he said, power is when you give a person or a group of people a choice, and that the choice they make has consequences. We want to give this president a choice to use the bully pulpit to twist the arms of the oligarchs' representatives. Keep in mind, everybody, it's my opinion that we, as a people, did not vote these people in. We had two elections. The first election was a money primary, where rich people used their money to pick the candidates that would best suit their agenda. And after they got through picking with their money, then they turned around and gave it to us and said, now it's your turn, and there is your democracy. Vote, shut up, and go back to work. I argue that that's not democracy. That's oligarchy. And the only way we get our country back is through power. And what I mean by get our country back is make it to where when we vote, it's our people that we vote in there. We match dollar for dollar the rich man's contribution. We neutralize, as Lawrence Lessig would say, their money. Okay? So that's not to say that our problems are going to go away, but it is to say that it's a huge step in the right direction. When we say that this is a president that best will fight for my interests, which is decency, which is passing. Okay, imagine a president, imagine congressmen and senators that would pass laws like a 21st century Glass-Steagall Act, separate investment banking and commercial banking. The reason why we're going to have another financial crash, because those two, through neoliberalism, it was Graham-Lively Beach Act that allowed that to happen again. Okay? So, put him in a situation where the whole nation, because of the oligarchs, now keep in mind the oligarchs is going to cause this crisis, not us. The strategy briefly is that we are going to go on a 60-day sabbatical on Labor Day 2027. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do that by identifying ourselves as patriots who are fighting to get our country back. And the way we do that is to wear the uniform of the warrior, the fighter, the patriot, red and white on your body. On mine, it says, "This deadly ideology, neoliberalism, I will fight and defeat." Wear it in your coat, wear it as a hat, wear it as a shirt, whatever you do, red and white on your body as you're walking around doing your thing. Put red and white streamers, cloth streamers on the sides of your door handles, and let everybody know that you are fighting to get your country back, and you're doing it with power. The other person that's going to see this is the American truck driver, the Class A CDL, with hazmat endorsements and all that. Class A is going to see that, and it's going to join you on this 60-day sabbatical, and by extension shut basically a whole country down. So some people would do it by choice, and other people would do it because they're forced to. They have no other choice. It's like how the Republicans, or how the oligarchs created a system where the left has nowhere to turn, nobody to vote for. It's the same thing. We are creating a situation where those who disagree with the fighters, the patriots, have no choice but to sit at home with us, contemplating what we might do next to get our country back. And I have a couple ideas, like not at all pay the fire sectors of our economy for not 2 months that we're out of work, out of pay, but for 6 months. Now, this is power. True, blue, real power. Now, what is Trump to do with that? When he has a whole nation, not threatening, but going to go on a 60-day sabbatical. What does that do to the economics of our country? Knowing that most all of us, we run our country, we run our society on credit. You know? Everybody's going to be behind on their car payment, on their house payment, on their mortgage. How are you going to do anything? And what we're demanding is free and fair elections and a mere vote on universal health care. If you give us those two things by Labor Day 2027, we won't go on a 60-day sabbatical. We'll feel a lot better about our future, because we will know that we have a better chance knowing that we're going to vote our person into office, our choice. What's he to do with that? I argue that if Donald Trump is a neoliberal corporatist, if he's an oligarch, if he is a fascist, if he is a what do you call, in other words, indecent, all the ugly things that a lot of people see him as, more than anything, he's vain, very vain. And he would jump in a New York minute at the chance and opportunity to have his name and his legacy in the history books as the president that gave the people free and fair elections. They basically gave the people their country back from the oligarchs. He'll do it in a New York minute. But he won't unless we have a show of power, unless we ourselves as individuals make that choice. Look, a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, I can't trust on anybody else, to take care of my family and pay my bills. Well, listen, to that person, I tell you, don't worry about everybody else. You worry about you and your children, if you have children, and their future, and our country, and our country's future. You make the decision for you and you alone. And know that by making this decision to fight, you are actually displaying power. True, blue, no kidding power. You as an individual. And once you do that, and you're asked, why did you do this? Why are you got red and white on your vehicle as you're driving down the road? Why is it every time I see you, you got some kind of red and white on your body? And you tell them, I've made a decision to fight to get our country back. That's me. And here's the strategy. Go to this website, which somebody else brought up, because I'm telling you, when I'm asking you to subscribe and share, do your own video, once you start getting comfortable with the prerequisites of getting our country back and understanding neoliberalism and modern monetary theory, once you start getting comfortable in the fact that the election process is oligarchy and not true representative democracy, you get comfortable doing that, you start sharing this video and sharing the idea, and you therefore have done your job. You've done your part as an individual to fight to get our country back, and let those other people that you tell make their own decision. And at the end, what you will find is the character of a nation. The character of a nation. And if it is, at the end of the day, that the character of a nation is such that it has no courage to fight back, then what is an oligarch to do with that? Think about it for a moment. You see, power goes both ways, doesn't it? If the oligarch catches wind to what's going on here, which they will, because this is something you cannot hide. This can't be in secret. It has to be totally and completely transparent, where they can sit down, talk amongst each other and say, how are we going to fight this? These people are starting to get wise. They're about to have a show of power that really is going to make a difference here. What are they to do with this? I argue that they will give in and give us what we want, because the other alternative is to do away with their power altogether, completely, altogether. Now, we're not talking about the destruction of our country, of our democracy here, because some people say you want to tear it all down. No, we have everything in place. We have a constitution, which is right and correct. We have a government which has been captured by the oligarchy. All we're doing is kicking the oligarchy out of our business and letting Congress do its job. Not through bribery, not through corruption, but through the choices and the mandate that the people ask their representative to do. That's all we're doing here. This is what we're doing. It's nothing less, nothing more. And it's very important. So, like this channel, like this video, please. And by hitting the like button, you're saying, yeah, it's the right idea. Let's go this way. I'll find something to wear red and white. I'll order silicone bands, and I'll get the cloth streamers on the sides of my door handles so it can stream out 2 or 3 feet as I drive down the road, telling the truck driver, get ready. I'm counting you, who's one of me, right, as a person with power to exert that power on the people's behalf. And you, American representative, the only one we got left, it really has power, so that we can vote in our own representative in our government to represent our interest, like universal health care, like all the other things, making banking boring again. Thanks for hearing me out. Please, if this is your first time, watch that video, the prerequisite to free and fair elections in a decent society. Okay? And yeah, voting in Trump isn't such a bad idea, as long as we have the courage to use that to our advantage. And as for those who voted for Trump, you're going to be right. You're right. Only and only if we have the courage to fight. And if we don't, then no change, no difference. Neoliberalism lives on. And this fact that we are paying more and more income more and more money out of our income to the oligarchs, man, makes it harder and harder for us to have a prosperous life for our children. That's not going to change. And like Lawrence Lessig says in his video, in the prerequisite I have him, a little short clip of Lawrence Leslie, which talks to the generation, the children. This is what I left you. This is what I had and I squandered and I left you. Let's not do that to our children. Let's be a decent society and fight.